Welcome back. You're watching Standpoint here on Morning Prime, holding court with Honorable Makale Mulu. Dr. Makale Mulu is a Member of Parliament, Kitui Central. Also, we have Wilson Sosion, who's a politician and an immediate former nominated Member of Parliament. And of course, we hold in court also with the Senator of Nyamira. This is Okongo Mogani Yesina Council. I think we have arrested the issue of the commissioners and how we need to audit it. But before we even just break away, I wanted just to ask questions in terms of duplication. We have, and we're discussing this just off camera, Parliamentary Service Commission and the SRC.
Yes.
And you were raising the issue of the Public Service Commission.
Yeah.
All dealings with the same issue at the end of the day and drawing a lot of packs. But someone will argue and say, you know, Parliamentary Service Commission cannot be oversighting members of parliament. It's because like you're oversighting yourselves. You need somebody to buffer in between who is the salaries and the remuneration commission. So do we need the Parliamentary Service Commission if SRC can do this job?
No, I think it should be the other way around. You can even look at best
because wanasema mwambia ngoma uvutia kwake.
No. As me, I like picking from I like picking from the most successful jurisdictions. You know, because don't send us to Somalia to pick best practices, but you can send us to the US, to Australia, and you pick best practices. You know, Parliamentary Service Commission should be discussing issues of salaries with the executive through Treasury. And you agree, I mean, these are not mad people. They are honorable members who are elected by their peers to serve as their commissioners. So how can you have an engagement where you have a government headed by the CS Treasury? He's the one who should be negotiating and telling you, you know, the sustainable salary for you and other people in public service is this, okay? And that should be the interlink. In the US, salaries of congressmen is through an act of parliament, whereby you look at the economy and you discuss with the government of the day and you pass a legislation saying these are the packs for members of Congress, senators, representatives. The same in Australia. There is no Salaries Remuneration Commission in those two jurisdictions. And I can tell you, even now, the duplication comes in this way. If you want to discuss benefits for members of parliament, you will go to SRC, SRC will go to the CS, Treasury, discuss what is manageable in terms of our economy. That's duplication. This is something that can be, I want us to look at one government that is responsible for the payment of salaries and allowances for the entire civil service. So if you have a Public Service Commission, they should have the data of the employees working for the government. And under Article 6, we are talking about county government and the national government. Then we have a rationalization of our payroll as a government. And discussions on salary should be with the person who is holding the pass. Who is that? CS Treasury. So from that discussion, Dibal, and from a very objective point of view, you can see that SRC becomes amorphous. You just want to create, you want to go to Kisumu, but you want to go round another place before you reach Kisumu. Let the discussion be direct. The money that we are spending on salaries becomes a saving for us. This thing you call, just another example, National Integration and Cohesion Commission.
Yes.
The Constitution says ignorance of the law is never a defense. I know what is insightful. I don't require national integration and National Cohesion Commission to open a lecture for me every day, lecturing me about why we need a peaceful country, why we should not make insightful statements. I know what are the consequences. If I breach the law,
but you can hark back to the genesis of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission.
What will they do?
Where the country was really coming from.
They will again recommend
such a body.
Look at the duplication. Now, if you break the law, they will not come to arrest you. They will go back to DCI and tell DCI, go and investigate.
Arrest.
We are becoming a joke. We are becoming a big joke. I mean, the DCI is there to enforce the law across the board. Whether I'm inciting people, whether I'm committing robbery, DCI must enforce the law. And the obligation is on me as a Kenyan to know what the law is and to ensure that I walk the narrow path of respecting the law. You don't need the National Integration Cohesion Commission to be there on TV screens every morning lecturing you about the law. That is a duplication. Leave DCI as an entity that can look around who is breaking the law. They will come arrest you, take you to court. If you are jailed, there is deterrence, debar. That's how you save money and direct that money for service delivery to the people of Kenya. If you're talking about issues dealing with human rights, if you're talking about gender, it's a human rights issue. You're talking about abuse or mistreatment of workers within the public service, it's a human rights issue. You don't need to create a different office of ombudsman where people go every day to report. That can be dealt with under the broad ambit of human rights violations under one commission. You don't need these three. You can collapse them into one, and then all issues dealing with human rights violations, gender, human rights abuses in our workplaces, unfair employment, all those things boil down to human rights violations. So after 12 years post-2010 Constitution, who cannot see that we did make some mistakes where we created entities that are actually duplicating services and where we are not getting value for money?
All right.
It's evident.
Educate me those on what also the Kenya Law Review Commission does and why we need the Kenya Law Review Commission. Maybe also that is a commission that we really needed to look into it, but we appreciate also what they do.
No, in fact, the question should be 12 years after enactment of the Constitution, what report do they have on the table? Because a law review commission is supposed to continuously review our laws, look at the ones which are redundant. This topic you have introduced this morning where there's duplication, they say we should merge this with this. So they're also sleeping on the job. In fact, that should be our resource center as members of parliament. Their report should enrich initiatives by parliament to, propose amendment of either the constitution or various other statutes. That's why we have eminent legal scholars as members of the Kenya Law Reform Commission. They should, every year, in fact, on an annual basis,
it's a reform, not review, yes.
They should be coming up with proposals which particular laws need to be reviewed, so that as a country, we are not just having a set of laws where we are not having the ability to implement. You get it? And where we are, the argument I'm having this morning is that we need more money for service delivery. We are not going to change this country into a Singapore or a South Korea if we make it an approach.
If you don't,
every day, let me tell you, Debal, my first comment. Every day, 200,000 Malaysians cross the border to go and work in Singapore. Because the leader of Singapore created an environment for people to come and invest in that country. By tackling issues like corruption, creating a good infrastructure. They were here in 1968 to benchmark on our railway line system. They went back and they have done better, 3 times better than us. So let's not focus on this idea that we need to create so many commissions so that this country can be ready for a second economic takeoff. We need to concentrate on service delivery, creating an environment where an American will wake up, Britain will wake up, come to Kenya to invest so that we create jobs for our youth.
Right, thank you. Dr. Makali, I don't know, for the Kenya Law Review Commission, from your own assessment, harking back to from the beginning as well, how will you highlight in terms of their performance?
No, I agree with what Senator Mugeni is saying. In my earlier life, I actually used to work very closely with the Kenya Law Reform Commission. And basically their work is to keep on continuously conducting an audit of our laws to see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what can we implement, what can we not implement, what has changed, so that, because at times law is also made on the basis of environment. The environment might change, and we need to change that law. And as he said, if you look at the people who normally work there, most of them are scholars. People can do a lot of research. People can do comparative analysis, compare what is happening in other countries and our country, and on the basis of that, would always advise both. Actually, the advice is supposed to be both to Parliament and also to the AG, the Attorney General, because those are the people who relate with the law, and mostly the Minister of Justice, where Minister of Justice exists. In the earlier days, it should be very active. Of late, I don't know this because of my lack of day-to-day interaction, because I hardly hear of them and they see any output out of them. So I don't think I'm really at the right place to assess their performance. But you know, at times they say you can easily pick what people are doing by seeing what comes out of such an office. Of late, I've not seen much from that office. But it would be a very good office if they were working effectively to support lawmaking, both at the level where at Parliament where we make laws, and law interpretation with the courts, and also the Attorney General, who is the advisor to the government. So I think this is another commission which can easily add value to this country if they did their work effectively. I know normally there is always, those old days, there used to be the problem of the budget, always claiming that they're not getting the right financing to do their work. I don't know whether that still exists now, but as you said, you know, I think the basic argument is that we need to see more of their output as a country. Kenyans need to feel them more. Ile lugha mtaa wanatakiwa tuwasikie na tuwaone, you know. I think that is missing. We are not feeling them. We need to feel them.
Okay, let me gravitate the discussion towards also what is happening within the parastatals, because even if you look at the dailies as well, we can see they have put up an advertisement for looking for a managing director for the Kenya pipeline. We saw the auditor, not the auditor general, but the Attorney General saying that the reinstatement of Joe Sang was okay. And now we have a new development. LSK, is it LSK that has moved to challenge this?
They've gone to court.
They've gone to court to challenge this particular appointment. We have now also the advertisement. In terms of what we are seeing, the reinstatement of some of the officers who supposedly were embroiled in malfeasance, and there were court cases were ongoing. Joe Sang, I think, was cleared by the court in December, right? Yeah. There was a green light. But this new development, having the same person going back there, and Law Society also challenging again the appointment, what would you say?
You know, Dibal, this matter of people who got back to office is another contentious issue in this country. And I think my opinion is that, you know, in a situation where you've been having a court case, and I want to give you an example of what you're talking about, the Kenya pipeline and the National Hospital Insurance Fund, where I think the CEO has also been cleared. And now, after being cleared by the courts, they are now actually claiming back their positions. Because the reasons why they left those positions was because they'd been taken to court. Now that they have been cleared by the court, they want to go back to the same position. But there's the issue of the perception. You know, the fact that you'd been taken to court, and that's where the lawyers will have to tell us. I always imagine that before you are taken to court, the investigative agencies of this country will have done their work. They'll have pushed their findings to the DPP. The DPP will look at the file critically, make a conclusion that it's worth being taken to court, so take them to court, and then from there, then the witnesses can come and start giving their submissions. But a situation where then all of a sudden you are told that this person has been cleared. You've not seen that due process where someone has been, you know, it's like a miracle happening. It's like a miracle happening because And that's why you see Kenyans are reading a lot of politics into all this arrangement. Because on a serious note, would have allowed time to see these people go through the process. But now you see, today you have been declared, you are now cleared, the following day you are in the office. So I think is this doubt, the perception coming out, is that these things have been done politically, and that's why I must congratulate the Law Society of Kenya. I think for the first time, I actually seeing a Law Society of Kenya which seems to be on the side of the public. They are saying we need to, they are the voice of the voiceless, you know. They are coming out to say, even though this has been done, we have issues on 1, 2, 3. So not until those issues are cleared, then this person can go to work. And I think really what they did for Kenya Pipeline, for me, was very commendable. That even if the court will still clear the same gentleman, but let's allow a bit of time for Kenyans to see, so that we isolate that bit of politics coming to play, so that we see now the legal mechanism taking place. But no, generally said, I think really we seem to have a problem. And I always like this statement where we are saying, this country is for all of us, and this idea of people being seen like, you know, during the time of COVID, we used to talk about what we used to call it, the one which used to, I'm forgetting, sanitizer.
Yeah, for COVID-19, yes.
Some of us are starting to see Kenya Kwanza as a sanitizer for all the mistakes done by Jubilee government, which to me is not, I think we really need to let's allow systems to work properly, because we have institutions, we have systems in place. Let's allow institutions to do their work, so that when a judge says this guy is clean, we all believe it is clean and the guy can go back to office. But when you see, and the problem is when you analyze all those who have been cleared by the courts, they all seem to be people who are alike, to some extent, friends of Honorable Sociani.
So then if you look at that little cartoon that Gado had drawn there as well, it's a DPP.
So I think
before the posing of goons there in court, it's all right, you can now dress and go back to work.
That's what we are saying.
This is what Makale is talking about, you know, being used, the court being used as a laundromat.
You know, Tibal, some of these observations, I would say, are extremely misguided. They're very misguided. We are operating in a new political ecosystem where rights of individuals are fundamental, and the rule of law and independence of institutions has been upheld. If we are to go back to the route of Uhuru Kenyatta administration, where individuals were branded and labeled for political expediency and hounded out of office, we will have a whole day discussion. Some of the issues being remedied procedurally and legally are proper. Our judicial system is independent. And if the DPP is coming out and is saying, no, these particular matters, they cannot sustain such a case in court, you don't have evidence, what do you expect to happen? And we have seen evidences of, even at the DCI, that we were instructed to frame up individuals. The use of criminal justice system to humiliate people politically was the common denominator of Uhuru administration. So even if you talk of Kenya Pipeline, Joe Sang, he was cleared by the courts. And so he's innocent. And from where I come from, as a labor leader, you cannot destroy careers of individuals. Dr. Makale Mule, you have read, you've worked, you have a career. Then somebody, because of political expediency, hounds you out of office because of trumped-up charges. That would be unfair to anybody, regardless of political affiliation, because people serve in public offices for the good of the country. And if you try reading it now, these are things which are automatically correcting themselves. Those who are charged wrongly, the cases are collapsing. And I dare challenge LSK and other institutions. Can you revisit those cases?
bring back evidence if there is any evidence, and if there is none, those persons should even be compensated. And if we go routes of compensating individuals who lost offices, it would be a lot of money. Let's go back to Kenyatta University. We saw what happened, the drama at the tail end of Uhuru administration, where the president himself gazettes appointment of a new council simply because you want to annex land from KU, where the vice chancellor was suspended because he refused to act unprocedurally on university property. But you saw it, but you have seen that is the status quo has been reinstated. I think there are a lot of things that were done out of procedure and misuse of criminal justice system and misuse of officers by the Uhuru administration. Now those things are being corrected. For every Kenyan, it doesn't matter the political affiliation. And I think the president has made it very clear that the rule of law, even in terms of collection of taxes, and that is very clear. Dr. Makale Mulu here is a scholar. AU puts the tax evasion by the big boys here in Kenya close to 600 billion. And even the UN, the fact is, there has been tax evasion. And that has been projected. If we make everybody to pay tax fairly, we will raise an additional 1 trillion shillings. But you can see the boys are trying to create other political narratives. Let me tell you, Dibal, we closed politics and elections on 9th of August. A president has been elected. There is a government in place. We are all Kenyans. We are not living Kenya. And we all have privileges and rights. Whether you voted for this government or not, let us have a country that runs. And so, these matters of appointments in parastatals and the rest, it will follow the due process of law. If you talk about the matter of Joe Sang, the Attorney General advised the board of Kenya Pipeline Company, and LSK have gone to court. They've procured orders. That has to be respected, the rulings of the court. There is now a process of competitively recruiting an MD, and if Joe Sang is recruited, so be it, and anyone else. So really, let us not politicize, and we talk of sanitizing. The ballot box on 9th of August sanitized the past of the dark side of our politics. That we should accept, and we discussed it here with the Mogeni, and now we are here, and the country is moving forward, and things are not going to change, particularly this one of taxes where we see politicization and trying to slow down the government. This government will collect taxes harder and more seriously. Isn't
that leaving an egg, smeared on the face of the Attorney General?
What?
Regarding this particular reinstatement of Joe Sang and the challenge from LSK, you should follow the due process.
Yeah, first, if you really want to travel safely and ensure that you don't fall into a ditch, look through the front mirror. Concentrate on your destination, where you want to reach. You will reach. But listening to Honorable Sosion, the Uhuru administration is concentrating more on the rear mirrors. You know what is bothering them is what has happened in the past. You're putting a lot of energy on talking about what Uhuru did, what the Jubilee administration did, but we really don't care about what happened yesterday. We are concerned with the state of our nation today and where you want to take this country. I have never heard Biden talk about Trump. He talks about the problems facing America and how they're going to move the country forward. Now you spend time telling us about what Uhuru did. Those are bygones. We are done with the elections. We want this country to move forward, and we want to make some contribution in ensuring that this country moves forward. Dibal, I did my master's, or one of my masters is on governance. And we should never joke with issues dealing with the rule of law and how we apply the rule of law. If you look at our geographical locations of countries, Mexico and America occupy the same area geographically. They have the same climatical benefits, etc. In fact, there's one town called Nogales that is separated by a fence. You know, on the other side is Arizona, America. This other side is Sorona, Mexico. Now, what puts these countries apart is that in the US, they apply the law fully. They have institutions that are respected. If FBI is investigating a matter, there will never be an interference from any head of state or anybody else senior in government. I think what I'm seeing is a very worrying trend where we want to intimidate independent officers that are tasked with the enforcement of the law, intimidate them so that we achieve certain favors for certain people. That is extremely dangerous. That's why the earnings of people in Arizona, their annual product, how do we call it?
GDP.
Their GDP is 20 times more than in Mexico. Because in Mexico, there is no rule of law. If you are in power and there is somebody who has broken the law, you use your powers as head of state to protect that person. You know, that's why a guy called Carlos Slim in Mexico has a monopoly on the telecommunication sector. Because even when you take them to the Monopolies Commission, he's able to get away with it because of interfering with the system and institutions. In America, you cannot get away with it. This philanthropist who was here the other day, what is his name? The owner of Microsoft, was fined 484 million.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, USD, because in America, institutions work. And look at the level of development in America vis-a-vis in Mexico. Mexico cannot pick because there is no law and order in Mexico. We don't hold people accountable. So I think I want to appeal to our head of states. There are areas which are no-goes on. And one of them is issues touching on the rule of law, enforcement of law and order. If you send a message to the DPP, the DCI, that there are people who are untouchable, I can tell you there will be total breakdown of law and order. Because these guys will be cowed, they will be scared. You know, Socio, these are serious matters. It's an issue that touches on the welfare of all of us as Kenyans. So the best thing to do, Dibali, is give this son of my late friend Haji the space to work independently as a DPP. Allow the police to do their work, asset recovery unit to do their work, and give the courts the freedom to make pronouncements. Those who are culpable, they should face the full force of the law. It's a very dangerous trajectory if we send a message, you know, that we want to intimidate some key institutions. We will never develop, I can assure you, Socio. If we go that way, we risk really reversing many gains that this country has made. And I want to join Honorable Makau Mulu here in congratulating the Law Society of Kenya, because they are stepping in to act in the best interest of Kenyans. Because Kenyans want to see equal enforcement of the law. How many cases touching the common mwananchi, the hustler, how many cases of facing hustlers have been withdrawn in our courts of law? How come? What we are seeing withdrawal is on some particular individuals who probably have high connections in government. That is not the way to go. On the other hand, if there is anybody who has gone through the legal process and a court of law on merits has made a pronouncement that that person is innocent, then they should also benefit. I will not, as a senior counsel, as a lawyer, I don't want the law to be applied in a way of eating at people or trying to have a, settle scores. That's not what we want in a civilized country. So if there is anybody who has gone through the rigmarole of court trial and the court without any intimidation or undue influence has made a pronouncement that this person was not culpable, that's okay. But if it's through influence peddling, it's dangerous for our country. And I think we should appeal to our leaders to respect our institutions. That's the only way we can create a country that will be, will be of use to all of us, so that we don't have a situation where there is a breakdown of law and order.
Right, thank you.
Yes. The studies are that the most successful countries all over the world, go to Singapore, go to Australia, go to America, go to Britain. They have created an environment where the rule of law is fully enforced. The ones that have failed, beginning with the ones I mentioned, Mexico, even Argentina that went into a slide from 1960, is because they were not enforcing the law. As it ought to.
Let's say from...
just a rebut from... I think Omugeni is raising very pertinent issues, but he's speaking from two sides of the mouth. And if you are telling us not to look into the mistakes of the past, then you are not also guiding us to move into a very good future. What Kenya Kwanza government has done, and is evidence, it's there, even matters to do with extrajudicial killings. Do we still recover bodies from Rivayala and the rest? That has been stopped. The rule of law in the previous administration was an alien thing. That's a fact. We can't run away from that. And I think that is what the president pronounced even during his inauguration, that is going to give the Inspector General of Police the accounting powers so that it's independent, it's not interfered with. And so this guesswork of trying to tell us that what we are seeing is interference of the state is actually wrong. These are now the products of an independent institution system, independent judiciary, independent DPP working freely. Haji has not complained that he has been chaperoned by anybody around. Independent police service, and you can see the police service are working. In fact, right now, the indicators of the rule of law are very clear. We no longer hear of extrajudicial killing. Let anybody tell us whether we've collected bodies at Rivayala the way they used to be collected on weekly basis during the previous administration. And we must talk about ills that we had. I've talked about KU, we all watched. Yeah. And that has been corrected.
It's not entirely accurate to say that, the DPP has not complained about chaperoning.
What is here, what is very clear is that the president of William Ruto himself is very clear. He will not interfere with operations of institutions. Even the rulings of courts, he would always respect. And he can't interfere. And look at what he has done. More funding to the judiciary and independence of the judiciary.
Thank you. I want just to
I think Omugeni here should be congratulating us for milestones and congratulating Kenya Kwanza for the great milestones of creating independence. And this is meant to be enjoyed by everyone.
I want you also to chime in, because the Law Society of Kenya has also challenged the lifting of the GMO ban. Right.
And that is a matter that is in court.
Yes, it's a matter that is in
LSK,
court.
And that is why the beauty of leaving the judiciary to be independent is a very good thing. Any Kenyan under Article 22 of the Constitution can litigate in court. Anybody can litigate. LSK have litigated, and the importation of GMOs was suspended, and they remain suspended. and the government has not proceeded to import GMOs because the matter is in court. So parties will canvass in court, and proper direction will be given by the court. And that is where the rule of law really comes in. And by the way, we'll not run away from GMOs, and I'm not here to debate the merits and demerits of GMOs. That is another world of science. The matter now is in court. It's within the armpits of the judiciary to deal with it. And that's what you're talking about in terms of the rule of law. Let us respect the rulings of all of the court. I think that is what was missing in the previous administration. Disregard even to the rule, the rulings of the court. We have demonstrated very well that we respect the rule of law.
No, just about that. We're looking at what the president had actually made as a declaration that we're lifting this ban. Yes. Consultation, isn't it? And then he's being challenged in court again.
What is wrong with that? What is wrong with anybody challenging?
We are talking about the rule of law.
Yes.
The president is the epitome of
the president through the cabinet. Through the cabinet lifted the GMO, and the cabinet lifted the GMO. Let's use the right words. Lifted the ban on importation of GMOs because of prevailing scientific facts. And there's a matter in court. A matter in court was filed to suspend, and that order was granted. Government has not insisted on proceeding to import until the matter is canvassed and concluded in court, and it shall be concluded. So, and everyone has a right, even if cabinet tomorrow comes up with a resolution, and any Kenyan feels that it's not proper, they are free to move the courts. And if they get orders, those orders must be respected. That's why we become a...
Thank you. Let's say from Magali.
You know, Dibal, I think Honorable Sosion seems to be defending what cannot be defended.
Sosion,
you know, the truth of the matter is... The truth of the matter is, I was actually showing him that...
Look at this screen you should look now. You're giving me a kisogo.
I was showing you earlier.
That is my imagination of the artist.
You know, Sosion, what you need to note is this, and I like what Senator said. The issue of respecting institutions and allowing the rule of law to actually be the order of the day. You see what is happening is, Dibal. For example, he was mentioning about the tax issues, where people are claiming not to be paying taxes. You know, Dibal, I'm sure all of us on this table, we must have got some demand note from KRA saying you have not paid this tax. It was not meant in political rallies. It must have just come quietly to you that your tax records show that you are not able, you did not pay this. Can you please explain or pay? Because there are only two statements: either pay or explain why you should not pay. This is normally done every day. So when he says that about 600 billion has not been collected in the past,
deliberately evaded.
You know, tax evasion is a serious offense in this country. It's a serious offense.
It is happening.
So if that happens,
and it has been happening, the
right way to do it is KRA. They have taken it used to be the brewer is called what? Keroche. Is it Keroche? They have taken Keroche to court. The other day they were all over the place to Keroche. Why have they not taken these big Kenyans to court? And that's what we are saying. The rule of law must be allowed to actually work, to operate the way it should be, so that when we see politicians on rallies talking about tax matters, and we have our own authority where people are being paid a lot of money, where us as members of parliament we are actually appropriating resources for this authority to do their work. What are we saying? Are we saying we are taking over their work, or are we saying we are when such things happen, then are we confirming independence of those institutions? So we are saying it's easier said than done, and we are saying Kenyans are smart. Honorable Sion, don't think the Kenyans we are leading today is the Kenyans of 1963. Kenyans are smart. Out there they can say. So what we are saying is, let things be done correctly. Correctly in which sense? Let us see now KRA lead this war, the war against people who don't pay taxes, so that we see KRA, they are not Honorable Sosion, not Honorable Makali, not the president leading the war. That is we are sending the wrong signals. Let KRA take up that, and we move forward.
Right, thank
it
you.
will help this country.
Thank you, thank you. Let's hear your closing remarks, Okongo Mogeni. I've got a few minutes now.
Yeah, I think this, I want to finish, I want to sign off with this issue of the importance of rule of law. You know, if we send the wrong signals, there will be a trickle-down effect that you can take to the bank.
It happens also.
If we start sending signals to Kenyans that the law is there to be applied to a small cut of the populace, there will be a trickle-down effect, and the results will be disastrous. Let all of us as Kenyans, whatever the position we occupy, accept that we are in a constitutional democracy where we are governed by laws, and there are institutions that are there to enforce these laws, and we respect them, beginning from us as parliamentarians down to the common mwananchi. There is nothing which is as valuable to us as a country like having a state of rule of law where there is law and order. What broke Somalia, Sosion, to finish with you, read the history of how Somalia disintegrated, is by creating a situation where there is really no law and order, but you have people who believe that they are law unto themselves. That's how you begin the disintegration and the breakdown of our country.
Thank you. Right, Sosion, the closing remarks.
I agree very strongly, rule of law. And the atmosphere is palpable. That Kenya
30 seconds,
is
30
an
seconds, sir.
atmosphere
Yes.
of the rule of law. And when you talk about KRA, it is time. It's a big public institution that must become part of our national conversation, because the previous arrangement of KRA was under state capture with selective misuse of KRA authority to target certain investments and exclude other entities from paying taxes. That is not right. It's not the rule of law. That is abuse of law. And what is being pronounced now, and what the president has pronounced, and it is the president who has pronounced, and he has all the constitutional mandate to pronounce it. Everyone must pay taxes, and no one will be excluded. What is wrong with that? That is not abuse of law. So I think we are on the right track. We are only trying to defend our political feelings and positions, but that will not work.
Thank you.
We are not in politics now. Collection of taxes is a mandatory
Thank you. You've made your point.
responsibility.
Thank you, sir. Let's have our honorable
I'll be very brief. The thing is, Kenya Kwanza has taken over the governance of this country. As me attempted, we didn't manage. When we were all campaigning, we knew there are challenges in this country. And those challenges are known by everybody. Let Kenya Kwanza settle and help Kenyans solve the challenges we are facing, day-to-day challenges. Let them move forward. This idea of the rear mirror is going to mess this country. We want them to move forward. Full stop.
Full stop. All right, I think that's a beautiful place also to put the full stop on. Thank you, Honorable Makali Mulu, for coming through this morning. I really appreciate Wilson Sosion. Thank you very much. On behalf of also Hilary Sigei, thank you. And Okongo Mogeni, I really do appreciate your valued company. You've been watching Standpoint here. Thank you.